Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is episode 52 of Shacknews Presents Pop Goes the Culture. I am Donovan Erskine, news editor at Shacknews, and I'm joined, as always, by Greg Burke, our illustrious head of video. Happy Thursday, Greg.
Happy Thursday. It's definitely Thursday. It's a
Yes,
Thursday.
it is the day before Friday, and you know that because we're here doing Pop Goes the Culture, which is our show on Shacknews where we talk about everything new in movies, television, a little bit of comics, maybe even music every once in a blood moon. Um, but Greg, we should probably talk about our first ever movie night that we had last week. As we ended January, we did our first movie night with Pop Goes the Culture, or whatever we call it. We watched Spaceballs, and it was really fun. We used the Amazon Prime Watch Party feature. I had a couple of Shack staffers, and I know Squires was in there with us watching. It was pretty exciting. We'll do it again at the end of this month, probably around like the 25th, I think, is that last Friday. But yeah, it was a successful first movie night. It makes me very excited for future ones.
Yeah, especially since like a lot of the times you haven't seen the movie or you maybe barely remember it because you see it in
Yeah,
bits and pieces, which tends to happens with like really popular movies. Like you're like, I remember watching that when I was 9, it for like a second on cable television before it went to commercial. I switched to
yeah.
something else.
hmm I remember this one scene that played when I was walking out of a room like 15 years ago. Um, but yeah, but again, we'll talk more about that as the next one gets closer. Maybe we'll have people vote on it. Maybe we'll just freaking decide for ourselves. But we'll get to that in a while. Instead, we're going to talk about a movie that's coming out very soon. Hey there, Squires. Just talking about you, pal. Thank you for the 10 bits. We appreciate it.
Bit.
We're going to start off talking about what's up, Greg?
I said
Did you have
he's the bit lord today. He's head of the bits, the bit king.
Squires is the top bit boy. Uh, Texas Chainsaw, Greg. It's a movie that's coming out this month. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre on Netflix. I believe I talked about it when they released like a little teaser announcement thing not too long ago, probably a couple months back. Essentially, this new movie it does the requel thing where the first movie is like the only one that's canon now. Like this is like a direct sequel to the first one, although there's like 12 Chainsaw Massacre movies. It just ignores them all but the first one. So it's supposed to be like 50 years later, or however many years it is in universe. And Leatherface is back. In this new trailer, we see a bunch of kids, well, not kids, young adults, whatever, going to what they think is this abandoned town out in the middle of nowhere. And they very soon come face to face with Leatherface and his cannibalistic family. And you know what? As somebody who was very concerned by the synopsis of this movie and the first teaser, I thought this trailer was all right. I don't think it's a bad trailer. I mean, like most people that have seen it, I think the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is amazing. It's one of the like scariest movies I've ever seen. Like a lot of horror movies don't really scare you that much, but like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a movie like you watch and that movie like really like fucks with you. That is a scary movie. And I don't know, like I like seeing their house again in this. A lot of the set pieces look cool. There's a scene we're gonna see at the end of the trailer on a bus that's pretty decent. We see they bring back Sally Hardesty, played by a different actress because Marilyn Burns passed away. But I don't know. I don't think it looks half bad, Greg. How about you watching through it here? What's the vibe
I
you're
mean, I
getting?
mean, I don't know. Like, I don't. If I have to hear like for a new generation one more time, I'm going to scream. I feel like there you could be telling original stories and not just rehashing ones, that have been out for years. Like I don't know. It's also the trailer. I just watched the trailer. It's interesting, but there are a lot of scenes in it that look really poorly shot. Like the scene where he like lifts up his face in that field of flowers or whatever, and it's just like he's obviously not there. So it's interesting. And I also think that modern technology is like ruining movies, like in a terms of like in a movie where you have a cell phone, you can call for help at any time. It even shows them using them in this movie. Like, where's the danger, right? You're supposed to be cut off from
What
all. Right, I'm sure they'll make some
I
excuse for like, oh, there's no service in this town or whatever. But but like, you know what I mean? Like, it's getting harder to make
well,
movies. Scream did a good job though with
I
that.
I think so. I think Scream does do a good job with that. But I thought that scene's funny though when they're on the bus because he like Leatherface gets onto the bus with this chainsaw, and everybody immediately pulls out their cameras, and they're like, "Go ahead, like try it. You'll be canceled or whatever." And then like he's just like, "Okay," and then he just starts shredding them up with the chainsaw because it's like, yeah, okay, everyone's got phones. You can all call 911. They're not gonna Dragon Ball Z instant transmission to the bus. Like he's still gonna like slaughter all of you. So I thought that scene was kind of funny, where they're all like, they all think they're like protected behind their technology. They're all like, "We dare you, go ahead." And he's like, "All right," and he just starts mowing through them with the chainsaw. I thought that was pretty funny. I saw some people were saying that that line was like cringe, which it kind of is, but I thought that scene still looked a little funny. Um, as far as like the way it's shot, yeah, I don't know. It certainly doesn't look like it's going to be the most beautiful film. I saw Squire said Netflix, yeah, like a lot of direct to Netflix is kind of like the new direct to DVD or home video when it comes to like established franchises. Like they do a lot of great original stuff. When you hear like an established film series, it's like going straight to Netflix. You're immediately like, uh oh. But to be fair, I think that this was supposed to be a theatrical film, and Netflix bought it like for like a f ton of money, just because they want everything on their service. Kind of like what they did with Knives Out. Like the new Knives Out movie is going straight to Netflix. That's not because they're making it on like a shoestring budget. It's just because Netflix paid like $500 million to have it. Square says the pass for me. Yeah, I mean, and again, I think the trailer looks decent. It comes out very soon, like the 18th, I think. Reviews will probably be out in a few days, and I guess we'll see then. Maybe it's like an unwatchable heap of garbage. I don't know, but it's weird. Like I feel like with horror franchises now, there's like the modern day reboot model where it's like, and I guess Halloween started in 2018, where it's like you retcon all the sequels, you do direct sequel to the original, and then you bring back like the original like final girl or survivor or whatever as a middle-aged to old person trying to like hunt down like how Jamie Lee Curtis was like waiting all these years for Michael to come back, and now in this one it's like Sally Hart. He's like, "I've been waiting for this night for 50 years," um, which again makes me appreciate Scream for kind of cleverly like navigating some of those tropes. But I'll get to that in a little bit. Um, I don't know though. I'm very curious to see what folks think of this movie. I don't think it'll be as scary as the original, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but willing to give it a chance when it comes out. Squire said I should watch the original. It's a complete blank. I 100% recommend rewatching the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think it's on like Prime Video, but they have it with like ads. So if you can put up with watching like a stupid ad every 30 minutes, I would say it's worth watching on there. But that is a very well done scary movie that's like extremely contained. It takes place in like two locations. You can tell they made that movie for like somebody's monthly allowance. Uh, but yeah, we will see.
I think it's interesting because it said from the people who brought you The Evil Dead and Don't Breathe, but it didn't say if it was the director or the writer or the producer or the intern. Like I don't know what that means. It's so generic. I'm like, what?
I that is like a marketing thing that I can't stand in movies, where it's like from the people that brought you successful movie, and it's like because they do it with like Get Out as a recent one. Like Get Out was like this breakout thriller, like everyone loved it. Jordan Peele's a genius, and then you got so many horror movies where it was like from the people that brought you Get Out, and it's like because Blumhouse
Which
and
people?
yeah, which people like Jordan Peele did not write or direct this movie, so who's bringing it to us? And it's like because Blumhouse published it or produced it or whatever. And it's like
yeah, the distributor.
yeah, yeah, it's like that can mean anything. That doesn't mean this movie's good just because the same people like signed off on the checks and made the phone calls. Like I don't know. I hate that though when they do that. So like for me, when I see that in marketing, it's like it doesn't lift my excitement at all. Now if it's like from the director of or the writer of,
Mm-hmm.
then maybe I guess it's different then. But you know, I also hate when they do that.
There's a yeah, and these I mean these reboots have been really hit or miss, like really bad. I remember the Evil Dead remake. I saw it and it was so forgettable. It was just gore porn. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, this is pretty forgettable because
Dude,
like
the Evil Dead remake is so violent. I just watched it last year.
but it feels
so
like it's violent just for the sake to be violent, like for shock value, and like it's not. I don't know if you saw. Do you ever see the original one or the remake of the original one?
I've seen the original Evil Dead and then the one that came out in 2013. The one that I think Petty Alvarez did.
When you say original, do you mean like 1970s or 1980s?
That's a great question. What's the? Now I'm not sure. Wait, let me see. Hold on. Which one did I watch? Boom, 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 boom.
So it gets confusing with the Evil Dead series because there's
Oh, I think it
three.
was 81. I think it was the 1980 the one that I saw.
So there was it was one of Sam Raimi's first films he did in college, and he did it on like a shoestring budget. Still looks great, like shoestring budget.
Yeah.
And then he did like a soft release for it, but it was still like very amateurish and kind of low budget compared to other stuff. And then so like I want to say New Line or yeah, I think it's New Line Cinema. Like they're like, hey, we'll give you like more money to do a remake of it, but like with a budget, like your real imagining of what it was. And so like they gave him, so he made Evil Dead 2, I think like 4 years later or 5 years later, and that had like a decent budget and it was effects. But the thing that really stood out about Evil Dead 2 was that it was like it had personality. It was slapsticky. It had dark humor in it. Like obviously Bruce Campbell's it's one of his breakout roles. Like he's great in that. Like he's very animated and has fun with the role. And a lot of these remakes are just so violent and dark and they don't have any personality other than look how violent it is. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's just not enough hook for me. Like there are people who love those movies and the gore porn movies. And
Yeah.
good, and that's right up their alley. But sometimes I need more. Like there's this scene in this trailer that I absolutely hate. So this is a field of dead sunflowers, and nothing in this shot is real, except for maybe the backdrop, the mountains. And then like he peeks his head up, and without the audio, it's really funny because he's like, "Hello." He doesn't look threatening or scary, and he doesn't even look like he's there. He looks like he's superimposed. It's just stuff like that bugs the hell out of me.
It's like, where's Waldo?
Yeah, but like
He
what?
just, like, pops out in the thing.
Like, I mean, it's just funny because it's like you could have done that. Like, you could have found a cornfield, and it's like, nah, cornfield's too passe. We need to have dead sunflowers, and needs to rise his head out of the dead sunflowers to get that scare. I'm like, but it looks so bad. Like, it looks like it's such a bad shot, you know? That kind of filmmaking just bugs me.
I feel you. Yeah, I mean, I don't have the utmost confidence this movie's going to be great, but I'll probably watch it since I don't have to pay anything to do so, and it'll be on Netflix.
This is true.
Check it out.
This is true.
My good old seat right here at my desk, and then probably talk about it some more in here. But it's curious. I mean, a lot of these horror franchises are coming back, and Greg. Speaking of horror franchises,
Evil dies tonight.
Yeah, we're not gonna tell that one, folks. Our next story, Scream 6 is a go. It's just announced. This is like breaking news. This is like just from like an hour and a half ago. Scream 2022 is getting a sequel. Donovan's very excited. So yes, if you haven't been following, the Scream movie came out January 14th. They're doing amazing. It's passed $100 million globally at the box office, which for a Scream movie is bananas because these movies have been making less and less money since 1996. I think Scream 4 made like a quarter of this in its entire run. And it's great. And they're doing another one. And it's not just exciting, Greg. Like, they're not just doing another Scream. I'm excited. You know what really, really gets me pumped up for this? Is the entire creative team is coming back. Matt Bellinelli opened, Tyler Gillette are both directing together again. Radio Silence is returning. And in the writer's room, James Vanderbilt and Guy Busick are writing the script again. The Dream Team is back, and they're targeting production this summer. That is super, super soon. For a movie that just came out in January, its sequel is looking to enter production this summer. They obviously want to strike while the iron's hot, and it makes sense for this series because the first Scream came out December 1996, and the second one came out December 1997, I think. They were literally 1 year apart. They released the first one, and they immediately jumped into the second, which is exactly what this one's doing. I think it's the smart move. Again, strike while the iron's hot. Based on how the first one ends, some cast will be back. I'm sure some won't. I guess those announcements will come in the future. I know they announced before this one had even came out that they already had treatments and ideas for where a sequel could go. So that's probably another reason why they're jumping right into production, because they probably had a story ready to fire off as soon as they had the green light from Spyglass and Paramount. I'm very excited for this. I'm looking forward to it. It's great. And last thing I'll say, it's the last Scream 4 came out in 2011. There was an 11-year gap between Scream 4 and 5. Before Scream 4, Scream 3 came out in 2000. There was an 11-year gap between Scream 3 and Scream 4. So I'm glad that for the first time in the last 2 decades, we don't have to wait 11 years to get a new Scream movie. So
yeah, but what if it starts going the same way as the other Scream movies? Just gets worse and worse, and it eventually becomes all about the kills and not the story or the characters.
Oh, the old Scream movies don't get worse and worse. That's the thing. They declined in making money, but not in quality. Scream 2. No. I'm gonna argue this. Scream 2 is great. Scream 3 is the only weak one, and then Scream 4 is amazing. Scream 4 is probably well, now that the fifth one's out, the fifth one's probably my second favorite, but 4 is probably third. I think that there's the worst Scream movie is 3, and even 3 is probably like a 7 out of 10 for me. Um, and I'd be concerned about quality if they were like, all right, now we're gonna hire this new set of directors or writers to do it. But I think these guys understand Scream, and they get what makes that series so special, how it stands apart from other slashers. Denny's got me in the chat. He said, "Yeah, Scream may be the best rated horror franchise. It's the only one that doesn't go off the deep end. Like, there's Halloween movies that are like unwatchably bad. There's Friday the 13th movies that are like unwatchably bad. There's Nightmare on Elm Street movies that are unwatchably bad. You can say it for Saw, Conjure. You can go down the list. Scream is the only one where even its worst movie is decent. It's like, it's okay.
I don't know.
It never went like full unwatchable.
I mean, I saw the first one, and then I know I've seen the other ones, but I complete blank. Like they were forgettable. I think I'm waiting for the Scream movie where like it shows the killer slashing everyone, and then it zooms in on Sydney, and she goes, "It's learning," or something cheesy like that, or I don't know. I don't know what else. Where else can they go, Donovan? They can't keep doing this. There's no way.
There are so many possibilities.
You're gonna trip over yourself if you keep doing this, and it happens in every horror franchise. It eventually happens.
It hasn't happened to this one yet. It's been going for 25 years. They haven't done it yet.
It tripped over itself with 3. It tripped over itself. You said so. You said if it wasn't for your fandom, it'd be almost unwatchable.
No, I don't think Scream 3 is near watchable. I just think it's like it's definitely the worst out of the bunch, and that's the one to like go to Hollywood and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think Scream is like, oh my god, get this off my screen. Like, I have other movie franchises that I love, like Star Wars or Avengers and whatnot, where there's like movies in those series where I'm like, I just don't watch them because they're not good. I can watch Scream 3. That movie's still quite enjoyable. I think it's has a lot of creative stuff that it does. I just think the killer reveal sucks, and the like retconning story stuff in it sucks. But I'm excited for this one. I think that where 5 ends, there's a lot of places they could go. You can get out of Woodsboro. You can bring in. Now they have the new cast. It could be the first one where you don't rely on the old cast members anymore, because that's been like the crutch for every single one at this point. I know 4 did the fake out where they made you think they were giving it all to a new cast, and they killed them all. But 5 leaves you with the cast of new characters. You don't have to have Sydney. Mm-hmm. If they say the new Scream doesn't have any Sydney, no Dewey, no Gale, I am A-okay with that, because I think the young cast they brought in is excellent. And I'm looking forward to seeing it. Again, it's my favorite horror franchise. If you can't tell, I get quite the kick out of these movies. And I look forward to learning more about it.
It's amazing. The movie costs what, like $20 million to make, or $25 million to make?
I think 24, 25.
Yeah, and it's amazing what you can do when you don't have to pay talent millions of dollars. I mean, because I was looking at that Death on the Nile remake, and they had a budget of like $125 million. I'm like, this movie takes place on a boat. Like, what are you spending your budget? Oh, right, Gal Gadot wants $40 million, Kenneth Branagh wants $40 million, and this other person wants $40 million. That's where your budget is. Paying these gigantic actors these huge inflated salaries.
Yeah, those movies are like... That movie's like jam-packed with like all-star talent.
I was like, it's a movie, you're on a boat. Like, why is it costing you $125 million? Like, oh, right, because the boat's probably not real. They probably CGI'd the whole boat.
I think that movie's a lot of CG as well. I don't even think they shot that on location.
God, that's so sad. That's so sad that's what it's become. I don't understand. Like, it's such an easy concept. Yeah. You film it on a boat. You rent a boat, you film it on it. It's just, I don't know. It just drives me nuts.
Yeah, no, I agree. But again, that's probably a big reason why they were so fast to greenlight a sequel, because this movie made $100 million on a $24 million budget. I mean,
that's all profit, baby.
Yeah, that is a lot of profit, and it hasn't even opened in like Canada yet in a lot of places. But no, and that's, again, they have a great cast. I mean, Melissa Barrera, Jenna Ortega, Mason Gooding, Jack Quaid, like, they're all excellent. But again, they all presumably had modest contracts that they only spent $24 million on the movie. I don't know how much they paid to get the original cast back. But and there's like a lot of sets and stuff in it, but it's all very efficiently done, I think.
I think it's interesting. I think that's the difference between, like, I think there's a huge difference between the word actor and celebrity. And I'm going to get like probably railed for this, but like, I feel like The Rock is a celebrity, right? Every movie he plays The Rock. You know what I mean? Like, that's what he does, you know, and that's nothing wrong with that. Owen Wilson does that. Bruce Willis does that. Like, they have their thing, and they crutch on it, and that's fine, right? People enjoy it. But he's a celebrity, right? And then look at someone like Jack Quaid and some other actors, like especially like no-name actors, like they are actors, you know what I mean? They're constantly doing small roles, big roles. They're on Netflix series, they're doing Netflix films, Hulu films, and I've seen a ton of them all over the place. And I was just thinking about that last night. It was funny because I was thinking about how much money you could save not hiring someone that costs $75 million for a credit on your poster or to be in your film, where you could just hire a brand new actor that's probably more talented than that one. But like, who's going to go see your film then if that is the case? And I don't know, Jack Quaid, to me, he's in a lot of really odd stuff, which is kind of cool. Like, he's in a ton of stuff, and there were other actors in here that I recognized from a handful of things. But yeah. I just think it's interesting between, like, I brought up the thought of actor versus celebrity, right? Even Bruce Willis, I think, is a celebrity. He doesn't have much of a range. He plays John McClane in every movie. So like, he is a celebrity, you know what I mean?
Liam Neeson's another one where all of his movies are like the same movie.
He plays some kind of badass, whether it's a Jedi or an assassin or a wise man or whatever, you know, it's always... I just think I'm not saying these people aren't talented. I just think that there's actors and then there's celebrities, and people like celebrities. People like The Rock. People like Chris Evans. People like these people, you know? So they go and see them for that reason.
And it's an interesting point, too, because it comes back to something that I brought up. I know I mentioned on the show probably like a year ago at this point, but it's something interesting about like a lot of horror franchises. And I think a reason that a lot of them go off the deep end is like the celebrity of most horror films is the killer, right? Like Jason is the star of Friday the 13th. Freddy is the star of A Nightmare on Elm Street. No matter what you do, like those movies revolve around him. And you can say that to any horror movie that has a like signature villain. Chucky, like they're the star, and the humans are all there to like serve them and give them something to like slash through or make like quippy remarks to. But I think in Scream, Sydney's always been the star. Like she's like those movies are all around her, and Ghostface is like her foil, and Ghostface is like the face and on the posters and whatnot. But like Ghostface always loses. He always gets his ass kicked. He always gets killed and unmasked. Like Sydney is always like she is the face of that series. And I think fans of it go to see her, which I think is interesting if they don't bring her back in this one, which I'm still down for, because I think you can have like Melissa Barrera, Jenna Ortega be your new like star of that series. But I think it's great that they kind of established that without having like a blockbuster actor in there. Like, of course, Neve Campbell is very well known for doing those movies now, but she's not like the busiest actress in Hollywood. She never was. So I don't know. I think that's cool. I think it works in their favor. It'll help them keep these movies in a modest budget. I don't know. I'm curious to see how much they spend on the sequel. Maybe there'll be a bump there, but I doubt that the next Scream movie is going to have like $150 million budget after they just made this one for 24.
Because like you said, there's some visual effects in that movie. Most of them you said it was like phone related, but like it's all people on location acting with other actors. It was like a real... There's no other word to put for it. It was like a real movie. Like you're actually on a set or on a location with other actors on the same set talking to those other actors in the same location. Like it's a real film, you know, like it's... And it's funny you mentioned Neve Campbell because it's really cool. Like her story, she was huge in the 90s. Like a good way to like probably like explain it was like she would be like what Tom Holland was today, but in the 90s. Like everyone who knew who she was or has heard of her and has seen her work somewhere. You know, because she was in she was like in a sitcom and she was in a lot of teen dramas, I think. But like that Scream really put her on the map. But like, but it's like funny because each generation has that person, though, you know, that people will eventually forget because we all get forgotten. It's just what happens. Like no one knows, you know, the three top grossing actors in 1925 or 1932. You know what I mean? Even though they were huge. But like I feel like it's interesting. It's just like kind of like Tom Holland is today what Neve Campbell was in the 90s. Like people knew who she was. She was very recognizable.
Yeah, she pops up. I remember she did that one movie with like The Rock. Speaking of The Rock, a few years ago, that like it was like the skyscraper movie or whatever. She like played his wife in it.
Yeah. It's called The Tower, or is it Skyscraper? It's called Skyscraper, I think.
I think it is a Skyscraper. Yeah, she was like his wife in that, and that was like a Die Hard ripoff or whatever the hell it was supposed to be.
Which was a ripoff of a Japanese movie called The Tower, I think. It's all this everything always derivatives from something else that was usually first, and a lot of Japanese film did it first, which is interesting, super interesting.
Well, I love Neve Campbell. Yeah, that's like a dream interview.
And she looks great too.
I would love to speak with her sometime.
She looked great in Scream. Yeah.
She's great in it. She's not in it that much. She's definitely not the main character in that movie, but her role is very well used.
I feel like you'd be that
Curious to
guy
see what they
in the
do.
Community. What is it? What's the face? Hi, I'm Nev Campbell. Donovan's like, no,
Oh,
stepping in the room. No, 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 no. Snap out of it, Donovan. Come on. Ask her
he's
the
like,
three
I told you
questions.
I wanted an autograph. I just wanted an. You can't disappoint an autograph.
Exactly.
Oh man, yeah, that would be me, for real. But yes, I'm sure I will find ways to shoehorn Scream 6 or whatever they're gonna call it. I know Asif asked me on Twitter, he's like, so are they gonna call this one Scream 2? They kind of backed themselves into a corner with the naming convention, so now they got to get creative with the name.
Yeah, that
Or
shit
they could just
sucks.
say,
That shit really does suck
they
because
could
now you got to do it by year instead of by number. Like,
yeah, because you can't call it Scream 2 because we have a movie called Scream 2, but at the same, I mean, do you just go Scream 6? Like, I don't know. I'm sure they'll come up with something, but
it's like, Donovan, do you
what's
mean
up?
Evil Dead 74, Evil Dead 81, or Evil Dead
Yeah,
2015? Like,
it's yeah, exactly.
it's getting ridiculous.
It's a nightmare. But I'm sure the brilliant people working on it will come up with something, and I'm also sure that I'll bring this movie up whenever there's news of it to talk about. Uh, Greg, speaking of movies to talk about, we've already talked about Netflix a lot during the show in these early minutes. You know, they released something today called a movie preview, or the 2022 movie preview, where they just kind of threw out like a 3 minute sizzle reel of like 20 different movies that they have coming out this year. And while most of them kind of didn't really move me or really stand out, there were some that I think were pretty significant here. Um, so I figured it'd be worth just watching through their little video and seeing if anything, if we want to pause on any that look interesting to us. Um, I see some Jamie Foxx movies in here, but Netflix is quite busy. They're probably the most prolific studio right now. I mean, they've always got stuff coming out. Is that Lindsay Lohan?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you saw Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. I forgot that was coming to Netflix. That's stop motion. I didn't know that was going to be stop motion animation. It's actually pretty interesting. A Guillermo del Toro stop motion Pinocchio. I could be down for that. I see
It,
some Ryan Gosling stuff here.
it's
Good.
it's very like it's I feel it's less about the movies and more about they're showing you all the celebrities that are in these movies. If I'm being honest, we just talked about this conversation leading into this.
We, you talked about big money. Like Netflix blows cash on its talent. Like it puts up ungodly amounts of money to have like all these people in their movies. It's why you see like Ryan Gosling, The Rock, yada yada. It's that, and then also combined with the fact that a lot of like specifically directors and writers have said this, that Netflix is very like hands off when it comes to creative stuff. Like they're not like, oh, your movie has to have this, or like you can't do that. So I think a lot of directors and writers, it's also kind of like a creative dream because Netflix is known to just give people blank checks and be like, do whatever the hell you want, which Universal usually won't do. You know, Disney definitely won't do. Warner Brothers probably won't do. Um, so I think that's a reason. Oh wow, look at Mila Kunis. That
Yeah,
is a very
there's
attractive
it's
woman.
just this is just
But
like there's it's less about the film and more about the actors. There's this is a huge celebrity role. I think every Avengers in this trailer. Like that's insane. Like when you think about it, like they're not together, but that's amazing.
yeah,
Like how do they like do that? It could be because
yeah,
the actors want to push themselves and want to do different things and like doing a triple like almost like the big AAA MCU stuff is like the safe paycheck stuff, and then they go to Netflix when they want to like have fun and try something new, you know, like or push themselves in a different
yeah,
direction.
yeah. It also seems like Netflix greenlights a lot of stuff that doesn't get greenlit anywhere else. This
I
is
mean, like Charlize Theron, like what? Jesus Christ, who's not in this? Like, who's not in
oh,
anything? Jeez, Louise.
you see this last one? This is great.
No,
Yeah, baby.
no,
Yeah. Woo! Man, you
no.
should have seen my excitement like when I was watching this morning, and I get to the end because I had already seen
Damn
like the
it.
BTS with this one. When I saw the water coming in, I'm like, oh hell yeah! And then they zoom out on the cast, and you just see Daniel Craig, and it's so good,
Fucking,
so good. I
I
cannot
don't.
wait. It's gonna be good. And you know that cast, that Knives Out 2 cast is nuts. You want to talk about um movies that just have all-star casts? It's great. They got Catherine Hahn in there, Edward Norton, Janelle Monáe, Leslie Odom Jr., Ethan Hawke, Jada Pinkett. Like they have a lot of talent in that movie. I can't wait for it. Knives Out 2 is gonna be great.
Well, it's interesting too because I feel like there's different reasons certain actors do certain projects, right? Sometimes it's obviously they drove a dump truck of money up to your house and say do this, we'll pay you money. Some of the times it's because it's a favor for a friend, like a producer or a studio exec or something like that, contractual. Or my personal favorite is like they're just interested in the movie, like they read the screenplay, they think it's interesting, and they sign up for it. And I feel like a lot of these actors, especially these big actors, and that's what they're doing for Netflix specifically. Like they're like, oh, that looks really cool. I might want to be involved in that because you always have to give the script to an agent, right? Then the agent reads it, and the agent's supposed to know the actor whether they'd be entered or not. Then they pass off the actor to read it, and then they do negotiations. It's a whole big process. So I really think that this is a lot of projects of passion for a lot of these different actors. Like they got a ton of money too, but you know, I feel like they wouldn't be doing these movies unless they didn't enjoy doing them. And Chris Evans finally looks normal. I'm so happy that he looks like he's been like this buff 2% like man for like ever, and now he's like pale and a little slim, and like he's because like we interviewed him for the first Captain America years ago, and they said, what's the first thing you're gonna do after the movie wrapped? And he goes, I went and had a sandwich because bread. And he was like, because he's not allowed to eat any carbs. Like when you're on that set for 6 months, you're doing your training for the other 6 months, you can't have any bread, rice. It's basically vegetables and chicken breast. That's basically what you eat.
At a bulk.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. And no, I think that's true what you say about like actors being interested in the projects. I think that's exactly. I know you like to laugh at it, but I think that's exactly the case with Knives Out too. So I mean, it's a sequel, but it's an entirely new cast except for Daniel Craig. I mean, it's a new characters, new setting, but it's still a bunch of talent. I think like that first movie came out and was so universally loved, and everyone praised what like Ryan Johnson did with it. I think all those actors were like, "Oh hell yeah, like sign me up, I'll be in the sequel." At least that was the vibe I got when they were announcing all the people that were going to be in it, which is exciting because I think those make for the best flicks. But yeah, there's a lot of movies in here that I didn't even know like existed. Like watching through this, I'm like, wait, what is that? Like that animated movie looked kind of interesting. Looked like a Pixar movie almost. But again, and the best thing about Netflix is that it's all at home. Like these aren't you don't got to run out to the theater to see these. You don't have to pay for them. We can just kind of watch them as they pop up.
We have to pay for them with the subscription, but yeah, I know.
Well, yeah,
I
you pay for the subscription, but you don't have to buy tickets. Yeah. I know my only hit on Netflix is that their marketing is so spotty. Like a lot of these movies kind of just come and go. Like I'm sure some of these movies are coming out very soon, but we just have no clue because they just don't market all their movies equally. Like you can get on Netflix and see a movie be like, wow, I didn't know this huge like AAA actor had a new movie out and it's been out for a week. And it's like, wow, if this was like a studio film, you would have known because it would have been all over the place.
It's about like it's like the marketing budget as well. Like sometimes, like for example, like when there was a new Star Wars movie coming out, it was like it was overly aggressive. The marketing campaign was like 6 months in advance. You couldn't turn your head, go to the grocery store, and look at a screen without seeing Star Wars paraphernalia all over it. Yeah. And you're like, come on! Mm-hmm. And like, and like, I feel like you don't need those for those movies, but you need them for smaller ones. And that's the interesting thing, right? Like you'll see a huge campaign for a movie that goes on for a year where it's overly aggressive to the point where you're getting annoyed by it, and then you don't know, but this movie with Lindsay Lohan, what the fuck is this? You know what I mean? Because it had no marketing, no trailer.
Yeah. Like, I watch a Lindsay Lohan Christmas movie, but I have to know that it's coming out or that it exists to want to watch it. I think there's a medium in there. You don't have to have, Netflix doesn't need to have, like, cereal boxes with Lindsay Lohan's face on them, but, have some spots here and there.
I also think it shows you how far we've come from just production, from technology wise, and not just visual effects, just filmmaking in general. Like there used to be like a clear difference between seeing something in a movie theater and watching a straight to DVD video. You know what I mean? Like, there was a huge quality difference. Like you could just tell, right? They didn't have the budget, didn't have the same gear. Now everything looks the same. Like everything looks, I mean, I'm watching Netflix shows, Peacemaker, right? Peacemaker looks like it'd be shown in the theater. Like that's how good it's shot. Yeah. And I think that's really impressive.
No, that is really cool. And again, like watching all these trailers, if you didn't know, if I told you like these are all coming to theaters this year, you'd be like, okay. You wouldn't be like, nah, that looks like a Netflix movie, which is great. And we talked about it even with like the Marvel shows where they've done like a great job at making like the newer ones on Disney Plus look like the Marvel movies. Whereas like back when they first started, like when Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. came out, like that shot some good seasons, but like it was very clearly like a TV show. Like when you looked at it, it had like the visual identity.
Very hallway-ish, not a lot of action, a lot of talking in hallways. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody for a second was going to be like, wow, this is just like the movies, because it wasn't. But now, I mean, the lines are not just blurred; they're gone. Like the line is absent between what a show looks like and a movie looks like, which is really cool.
That was the weirdest thing about Agents of Shield. I was like, how are you gonna put people in this massive world full of all these amazing characters and just like confine it down to whatever Disney allows you to throw in as leftovers? Like, okay, fine, you can get Ghost Rider, I guess. Like, that was their biggest thing they got, and they did him wrong. Like, they didn't like the way that he was portrayed. They didn't like the car. They wanted the motorcycle. Even though that was like the new one, but like it's one of those like new 52 things where like people didn't like it in the comics, so why would you put it in the TV show?
Yeah, their budget was also incredibly low, so they weren't even gonna have like you weren't gonna get like superhero stuff like that on that show anyway. But yeah. So I don't know. I'm excited. I see this. I'm looking forward to all the stuff Netflix has coming out this year. It'll be fun to watch through this again several months from now and be like, well, that movie was pretty good. That one was god awful. Um,
At least they're trying. You know, they're trying different things. It's not part of the algorithm recycled stuff you see in theaters all the time. So I mean, I can definitely appreciate that.
hmm No, for sure. I would definitely agree. Denny says Netflix tosses so much money, it's wild. We're only seeing the Hollywood joints. They put the same budget in the EU and Korean projects. That's true. They do put a lot of money in overseas, and like some of the stuff will make it to American Netflix. Like I know the new Korean show like We're All Dead is supposed to be really good, but yeah, a lot of that stuff like exists overseas in a completely different Netflix library. Yeah, they spend a crap ton of money, but they also make a crap ton of money. So it makes sense. And you know what? With Stream Elements saying it in chat, our bot reminded me there. I'll say it here, folks. If you're watching the stream, you're enjoying it. Be sure to follow Shacknews. Make sure you're subscribed. If you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, you can do it at no additional charge. Then, of course, you should definitely check us out on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, Twitter at Shack News, YouTube at Shack News Games, and then there's also Gamer Hub TV. Gets you a lot of our interview content. And then, of course, shacknews.com. All of our written coverage is that. And, of course, we're just happy to have you listening. It means a lot. Thank you very much. Keep doing it for Shack News.
You know, there's an Enola Holmes 2 on this list, and I just read an article the other day about how, God, I can't remember his name. The guy who's in The Witcher. I can't remember. Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill.
He is getting paid $400,000 per episode for The Witcher.
For The Witcher, I believe it.
And he wants more for season 3 or 2 or 4.
Yeah, I believe it. I just saw somewhere somebody was getting like 200,000 an episode on some other show.
That's crazy. And then some of those actors, like, I just can't, like, that's insane. Like I just can't even fathom getting paid something like that. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of the journey to get there, that just seems even insane.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Yeah, no, I mean, actors making an F ton of money. But yeah, I never even saw the first Enola Holmes. I have a friend who liked it, but I just didn't hear much about it when it came out. Maybe I'll check it out before the new one drops. I tell you what, Netflix needs to show me some more damn Stranger Things. That's what I'm waiting for. Even though I know this is focused on movies, but
you should are they gonna reboot Stranger Things? I mean, how fast are we getting into these reboots? Like, how fast are we gonna start seeing reboots of things like, well, Stranger Things, all the kids are old, so we're gonna reboot it for new generations. Like, it's been 5 years. Like, we don't need to reboot it for
I don't know. I don't think we're gonna get
the
Stranger Things. I don't think we're gonna get that for Stranger Things anytime soon. I mean, you don't even have to be kids anymore. You can just follow them as adults. I'm pretty sure people are too married to those actors. I think they could get away with it. But that's supposed to be this year at some point, season 4.
I really love
like 3 years.
I really love Netflix's. I've seen interviews with people from Stranger Things, like the brothers that wrote it, and when Netflix came to them when they came to Netflix with the idea, or when they found it, they asked like, how many episodes can we have? And Netflix said like, well, how many do you need to tell your story? And I think that's like a really interesting, really pro-minded, like, progressive way to look at that, where like a student would be like, you're not getting 3 hours. You can't have that many showtimes. If the movie's 3 hours, you can only have 3 showtimes, not 7. You know what I mean? Like that kind of shit. Like it's a different industry. And I think a lot of the old people in the film industry in Hollywood, like, especially in theatrical and AAA releases, like, they look down on Netflix, which is funny because now it's like one of the biggest entertainment mediums in the world. mean, even
Oh
Spielberg,
yeah,
he
they
walked
totally
back.
do.
He walked back, but even Spielberg like
Mhm.
shat on it like a couple years ago. But you know,
Oh yeah,
like
all of yeah, all no, all of the like Hollywood elites like look down on Netflix. Just streaming in general, because like it was a big thing like with the Oscars when like Netflix first started getting nominated for movies and stuff. People were like, Netflix is getting like a Best Picture nomination, and now you get to the point where like half of those movies are going to be Netflix movies, and it's funny because now like some of the most like prestigious directors like Scorsese did a Netflix movie, you know. Spielberg I think is producing stuff for them. Like it's it's funny how fast that dynamic flipped from Netflix being like the little guy in the room to who doesn't want to work with Netflix in 2022.
it
It's
brings you
pretty
back
funny.
to like I don't know what age you would call it in cinema, but like when I grew up, where you would see a lot of the same actors, but instead of being in like a cinematic universe or being like the 10th movie in a line of sequels, like it was just a new original story. You know, it was Arnold again, but he was in this situation, right? He's not doing this; he's doing
Yeah,
this
but
instead.
it was still like the same thing though. I mean, John Claude Van Damme did like 8 movies that were just all boiled down to the same damn thing.
It's
Arnie
true,
2,
it's true,
where they had all the
but if they were
it came
making
down to
those
them
movies
flexing their
now,
muscles.
if they were making those movies now, we'd have like a True Lies cinematic universe, and Arnold would be doing True Lies 9, and it would get really tiresome. So I think it's even though they are technically the same, like they are still different enough where like yeah, they're playing the same character, but it's a different situation. It's not the same universe. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. I like that. I
Are you
like
implying that you don't want a True Lies 9, Greg?
no, I don't. I don't. I just there's so many sequels, and then they get like discombobulated, and like you said, they usually go down in quality, and then they get spin-offs, and then they get confused, and then you have to be like, no, I'm not talking about Scream 1. I'm talking about Scream 2021, and just it just gets really confusing.
I saw a tweet where somebody was like, in another universe, instead of making like 4 Avatar sequels, James Cameron did like 4 True Lies movies.
Yeah,
And we
basically.
were just
Yeah,
getting we were
basically.
just getting like we're just getting Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis every year. It's I thought that was pretty funny.
Give the people what they
Um
want, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what to say.
uh Greg, we have another story here on our slate that came courtesy of you. It's more of a business oriented one, which are always interesting when we get these stories. But AT&T, who, if you don't know, owns Warner Media, which means Warner Brothers, and they're a million subsidiaries. AT&T sets plan to spin off Warner Media in $43 billion deal. I believe that this was like this story goes back to like last year with the when the big merger happened, and they were saying that they were looking to like sell off that part of their business or something like that. I'm reading through some of this now. A transitional spinoff, 100% of AT&T's interest in Warner Media to existing shareholders in a pro rata distribution, followed by the merger of Warner Media Discovery to form a new company. Yeah, so again, this is like fallout from their big deal last year. They're finally spinning off Warner Media. I'm not sure if we'll see like what implications this has for like their movie business or their like lineup of products, if anything. But it's kind of just like the latest chapter in that story, right?
Well, it's just $43 billion. Like we're getting to that point. I mean, we're not supposed to talk about games on the show, but how many companies are buying off or selling off sections? Usually, it's bigger companies buying off smaller companies that are not really small. They're
Mhm.
still gigantic. And I feel like we're
Yeah,
rapidly reaching the point where this could be very bad. Like you don't want one or two companies controlling everything. Like that's bad. Like that's practically a monopoly. Like everyone's saying. I mean, I know what a monopoly is. I know a monopoly is when one person has access to either something, whether it could be a service or a good or whatever. Like they can't, and then they have to be managed by the government, which is why there's so many subsidiaries. And the way they
yeah,
do it's almost like it's an art form for these CEOs to kind of trick the way Disney especially to like trick the way like, oh, we're not an entertainment monopoly. Look at all these other entertainment companies when like essentially there's like four like four big ones and a bunch of like
mm,
little ones that are usually subsidiaries of other ones. It's weird, but $43 billion, like this is insane. Like how do you look at this as an economist or like as a capitalist and be like, our system is broken? $43 billion? Like what? Excuse me?
a lot of dollars. It's quite a bit of dollars, but I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, AT&T will no longer be the owners of Warner Media, so that's interesting that they're selling them off. I know they said that they were like on the fence about whether they would do it or not. Um, but I don't know. It'll be curious to see how that like affects any of Warner Bros. Subsidiaries, if at all, because a lot of times these deals happen, and on the consumer level, you don't really see or at least comprehend any changes in business. But it's just like the latest big movie deal, right?
I mean that's what it is, but like it always comes down to WarnerMedia does have a lot of IP, but is it like, and this is the thing, like you'd have to look, I'd have to look up to at the company, like, do they own the rights to Batman, or is it just the film rights to Batman? Is it just the television rights? Like stuff like that is like super
No,
crucial when purchasing something.
I believe Warner Media owns like DC Comics, like all that. So they have like the movies, comics, shows, everything. I think they have the whole enchilada
So yeah, $43
at
billion
this point.
dollars. I mean, how much did Star Wars sell for? You'll know that. Do you know that off the top of your head, Donovan? Do you remember?
$4 billion is what George Lucas sold Star Wars to
That's
Disney
not,
for.
that was a bum
$4 billion.
deal. That was a bum deal on his end.
Yeah, he sold for 4 billion, and I think The Force Awakens, Rogue One, and I think Last Jedi made like 6 billion combined, or maybe like five. They made that money back like their first like three movies out, yeah, and they've made that like tenfold. Well, maybe not actually tenfold, but they've made that by multiples at this point of that franchise. But it's crazy because when they announced that, like 4 billion felt crazy. Like that was huge. Like in 2012 when they bought them for $4 billion, especially like with where Star Wars was at that point in 2012, where you hadn't had a movie in 7 years. There wasn't going to be any movie anytime soon. They had done like a couple cartoons, but like that wasn't like a active or healthy franchise necessarily in 2012. So it's one of those things where like hindsight's 2020. Like, oh my god, you only sold it for $4 billion.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure at the time,
yeah,
yeah,
I think he ended up hating Star. Like in the long run, he ended up becoming what he hated and hating the thing he created, which is like really sad. Like it's a really like
yeah,
George Lucas's story is like really sad with divorces and
mm,
stress and not wanting to become like a corporate shill, and then like he ended up becoming a corporate shill and like sold his IP to a really bad corporate shill. And I just it's such an interesting and sad, depressing story when you think about it. I hope they make a
I
documentary
guess.
about it.
I think George Lucas is great. I love the guy. I struggle to feel bad for him,
Oh no,
but
I think he's great, but like
I don't
imagine
know.
being an artist and hating your own art. Like I think that's basically what it came down to. Because George Lucas,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, he's not
I
a
I feel
filmmaker.
bad. I feel bad for him in the sense that like I feel bad for like the way people shit on him for a decade after the prequels, but I don't feel bad for him as in like look what they did to his Star Wars after he sold it, or the fact that they took it from him like that. I don't care about any of that stuff. I think he's perfectly fine. Um,
Oh no, he hated it.
but
That's what the prequels did, right? They showed that he wasn't a good writer and he's not a good director. He's an innovator. Like he's good at
yeah,
innovating. He's an engineer. He's on the cutting edge of visual effects and technologies. Like that's what
yeah,
he really liked. It wasn't the writing or the world building, like or the characters. It
yeah.
was the innovation. That's what it was.
He's a great idea man for sure. Um, Then he said WB has everything because they own DC. Yep. And he said they could still solve Mortal Kombat, but DC is never going anywhere. Yeah, I know that was a big conversation in this last year where people were wondering like if the rights to, like Mortal Kombat would end up somewhere, and that was the whole discussion. But yeah, that's for another show. Either way, it will be interesting to see if this has any like major like ramifications in the film industry, or if it doesn't, which a lot of these deals don't. At least on the surface, they do not. Um, Greg, speaking of people and paying money for things, good old Elon Musk. Um,
Oh, I
this is
think
kind of a
yeah.
funny. This is kind of a funnier story because I saw this when it happened. Essentially, I believe it was a teenager, right? Yeah, a teenager created a Twitter bot that tracks like Musk's private jet and just said where it was and made that information publicly available. And Elon Musk apparently offered the dude $5,000 to like delete the bot, like shut it down. And the kid asked for like I think he's like either $50,000 or a Tesla, and Elon Musk just blocked him. It was like a funny situation that also kind of became like serious in the conversations people were having about it. It became like I saw people like arguing back and forth like, oh, it's like effed up of him. Like Elon Musk is a billionaire. Like what is $50,000? Then it's a drop in the hat. That's what other people were saying. Like, well, I mean, legally he's not obligated to give him shit if the dude's like tracking his location. Like that's also wrong, regardless of how rich he is. So I'm curious, Greg, as to what your take is on
So there's two
this
takes.
situation.
The one take is he wanted to show the kid wanted to show Elon how talented he was. You know what I mean? And start a conversation, but at the same time, and maybe get a job or like an internship or something. I don't know. But at the same time, when he asked for money, that kind of shows me that he's just trying to, because rich people, and that's this is generic. If when you're as wealthy as Elon Musk is, you're a target, whether you're a good person or a bad person or neutral. But let's just treat Elon Musk as just like a mannequin with a lot of money. Okay, we take away all his quirks and everything out. You're a target. Period. Like,
He is a mannequin.
people are going to try to do anything to you to try to sue, get money, get handouts, get something for free, because they're like, you have billions of dollars. It's not going to cost you a thing. So I'm glad he didn't pay, mainly because when you do that, you open the can of worms. So now everyone out there who's thinking about doing shitty stuff like this goes, okay, I'm going to do this for this celebrity now or this person so I can get money. And it's nonstop. That's why you can never settle. And when you do settle, you have to sign like NDAs and everything to say that, oh, no, you can't say we settle. You can't say anything, a gag order, excuse me, to like stop, to prevent other people from doing this. Cause it's a snowball. Like if he paid that kid $50K, there'd be another person out there trying to do something similar and ask for more money too. And it just goes crazy. That said, I also think it's hilarious that he doesn't want people to know where his private jet, where he is on his private jet, because a lot of these people are kind of embarrassed about how much money they have, and it makes them very non-relatable. Like, even more so already when you're like, I fly my private jet everywhere. You're like, what? Not even first class or business class? Like, what?
Well, I don't think this is like Elon Musk being ashamed that he flies around on a private jet. I think it's just more so like security. Like, I just don't want people to know where I am at any given day. I think that alone is probably enough to be concerned.
I mean, that's so easy to do though, because I mean, I don't know. It doesn't say how exactly he developed the app, but like Twitter knows your location. You have to turn location off on Twitter, like, and in your phone settings to make it not show
that's not
up.
like that's not publicly available if you don't want it to be. Like, I mean, I think there's a difference between Twitter saying like this person's in Austin, Texas, versus the Twitter saying this person's at this airport like right now as of 10 minutes ago. I think that's a bit worse. But I mean, I don't know. I read the kid's story and I can feel for him a little bit, because I see the part at the end where like I think after he got blocked, he said that he would also accept an internship instead of payment, and he would delete the account. So it's obviously like a kid that was trying to like get his name out there, trying to find like his next big like break or opportunity, and he was saying he wanted the money to pay for college. So I don't know. I can get where he's coming from, but I also can't say that like Elon Musk was like obligated to give him 50 grand to delete it. But
No, he's never obligated.
nevertheless, I think it is a funny story though. Either way, and the fact he just blocked him was like, I'm done with this.
I'm trying to find. It's funny how like they won't link you to Jack Sweeney's Twitter on the article. I think that's kind of interesting. See if
I don't
find
know.
his Twitter account. Here it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's just some like kid who's like super smart and like talented. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say all this, people, but like that's capitalism. Like everyone's trying to make a dollar, right? Like, and there are no morals or ethics on how to make those dollars. There's supposed to be. We're all supposed to have those on the inside somewhere, but in the long run, there are no morals or ethics when you're trying to get through capitalism. It's what will work and what doesn't work, right? But yeah, but he got pretty famous. He's got 39,000 followers now.
That was gonna be my other point. I was gonna say maybe at least this kid's got like some attention that somebody somewhere is like, hey, we'll hire you to do this. I mean, it won't be Tesla, but I don't know. Maybe it'll create some sort of opportunity for him somewhere. But
well, he can't stop it because he's using. So actually, I'm reading his Twitter thing now. So he's using actually data from a website that reports on plane flight paths and destinations and stuff like that. So like it's not. So it's not like he's tracking his phone or whatever. He's tracking the jet that is being monitored via, it's called absexchange.com, which tells you its latitude, its longitude, its track rate, its ground speed. So he just made a bot that reports to that. So he's technically not doing anything illegal. And I think that's going to really piss Elon Musk off.
Again, which is why it's hilarious, because if this kid had like hacked into like his plane software, then it'd be like, all right, dude, like that's not cool. But he's not. He's just using like the available like flight thing, and obviously like with planes, that information is always out in the public because it's very important that everybody's on the same page and you don't have planes in intersecting flight paths or that are supposed to be at the same place at the same time. But yeah, I do think it's a bit funny. But yeah, hats off to that kid. He's much smarter than me. I definitely couldn't make a bot that does anything, let alone that tracks plane data. But yeah,
Some of these
one
like
of our
routes are like they go around, like it's weird. They go like it's not like Indiana Jones where it's like a straight shot. They like go like in, especially the
Mhm.
jets. They have to like fly different ways. I guess I don't know. I don't know much about private airlines because I've never flown in one and I never will flow in one. Fly in one. Flow.
I was gonna say you never will flow in
No.
one. Yeah,
Fly in one.
yeah, no, planes take weird flight patterns, and I imagine private jets being smaller, and I know the wind and stuff has effects on that. I'm pretending like I know about aviation. I'm sure that
No, the
impacts the way
drag.
that
No, you're right. That's drag. Yeah,
they
it's
fly and
drag.
go. Yeah, yeah.
Speed,
Mhm.
drag,
Yeah.
height, like all has how you how fast you climb, how slow you climb, like it all. Yeah, it all matters.
Yeah, I was in a plane one time coming back from Texas, and it was like a big commercial airliner, like 290 seater, but it like we had to like fly in circles for like 30 minutes, like just literal circles, because there was like a storm in Baltimore and we couldn't fly yet, and I was like so could like parent. I was like, feels really weird just flying in circles in this big ass like commercial airliner, but yeah, that's really our last major news story of the day, Greg. Um, we're gonna do I guess we could do a little review talk here. Have you seen anything noteworthy? I know you saw the first episode of Peacemaker, but you want to talk about that, or maybe any other shows or movies that you've
So I
seen?
watched Peacemaker. I also started to watch How I Met Your Father.
Oh yes.
Um, which one should I start with?
I don't know. You choose. Start with the one you like the least. How about that? And you can end on a good note and talk about the better things second.
All right, so I watched. So for you guys, you don't remember, there's a new show specifically on Hulu, produced from Hulu, starring Hilary Duff. Right, that's the name of the actress.
uh, that is who I love. I'll talk about Hillary Duff
Okay,
later, but please go
so
ahead.
it's not a. I thought it was like the story of. So I'm a huge How I Met Your Mother fan. I love that show. It's a great show. I think it's hilarious. I think all the characters are great. I've watched it all. We're watching it again. I love that show. Have you seen that show, Donovan? How I Met Your Mother?
I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen a few episodes of How I Met Your Mother
So
back in the day.
yeah, it's a funny show. We enjoyed it. So now they're making another one. I thought the other one was about Ted Mosby's wife's perspective on how he met him, right? Like her, like up until the point where they actually met. But it's not. It's
That's just
actually, yeah, it's just a completely new story with a little bit
Yeah.
of throwback, if hardly, and I wouldn't even call it a throwback, hardly at all. And it's written to be nice, because I know work goes into these things. It's written like a bunch of 45-year-olds thinking like 21-year-olds. And as a 36-year-old, I can tell you that I can't, and whose wife works at a high school, that they're on a different level when they think about technology and social media and texting and all that stuff. It's a completely different level. Unless you are experiencing it every day in your local high school with kids, you're not going to be able to nail it. So it's very awkwardly written, especially like a lot of the Tinder, text, cell phone jokes, and it just feels like they're trying way too hard. It's very
Yeah.
I barely got past the pilot, and Hilary Duff's too old, like for that role. Like it's
Oh,
just, I
come
feel like,
on.
well, like it's supposed to be about a woman trying to find true love, and if you're following the format of How I Met Your Mother, it shouldn't be a 42-year-old.
Hillary Duff's in her 30s.
She's in her
She's younger than,
30s.
she's younger than you. Hillary Duff is 34.
No, she's not. You're lying.
That's what Google says, unless it's a different Hillary
Oh,
Duff.
that poor Hillary. Poor Hillary. Jesus. She's been dragged through the ringer. Oh my god. Even my
look,
wife, my wife's usually good with that stuff, and she's like 40 something. She's 34. She's 2 years younger than me, and she looks 20 years older. How does that poor thing, a poor woman?
I think Hillary Duff looks gorgeous. Are you guys crazy? Are we talking about the same person?
Does she look like she's 34?
If I had to guess, I would say she was like mid-30s. Yeah.
Disagree.
And I mean, maybe I just know that she's mid-30s because I remember when she was Lizzie McGuire, and I know that was like 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Hillary Duff looks amazing. That woman is gorgeous. That's why I was like, I'll talk about Hillary Duff later, because I think that woman is goddamn stunning. I love Hillary Duff.
Yeah, that's
I'll try not to go. I won't go full thirst here, but
she doesn't look. I mean, I didn't know how old she was. My wife told me she was 41, and I'm like, okay, I believe that. And you're telling me 34, and I have a hard time believing that.
yeah,
I know you're
mean,
right,
They make
but
her maybe not so much in this show, but I mean, I don't know, like I follow Hillary Duff on like Instagram and stuff. That woman looks great. But even in the trailer, though, yeah, I don't know. I wasn't gonna check this out because I wasn't like a big How I Met Your Mother fan. Like I didn't really care for that show. Um, but yeah. See, Danny brings up something I wanted to mention with Hilary Duff. They effed up because they were gonna do a Lizzie McGuire revival on Disney Plus, and they went so far as shooting like the first handful of episodes. Like they shot episodes of the Lizzie McGuire reboot with Hilary Duff. They had like this woman that was like show running the whole thing. I forget her name. And then they had some like big falling out like between Hilary Duff and like their creative team with Disney, and Disney Plus and what they wanted. Because I think Hilary Duff and the showrunner wanted it to be much more like adult and mature, like with the audience. Because like the people that watch Lizzie McGuire are all at the oldest like in their 20s at this point, and they wanted it to be like more adult themes and stuff. And I think that Disney Channel wanted it to be more in the vein of like when they brought That's So Raven back, and it's still like family friendly, and there's like cute cuddly kid characters, and they couldn't agree. They dropped it. Like the show got canceled before it ever aired, and they shot episodes for it, which was heartbreaking to me because I love Lizzie McGuire.
Well, what was the other show that they did that got really well received? That was like a 20-year reunion. It was about that girl at the desk with the soda. Like it's that meme. You know what I mean? Where it was this. They did like
iCarly.
Yeah, like why did that do so well, and like why would this one do poorly? It seems like it's the same thing, like the same.
Well, the thing with that was that iCarly revival was on Nickelodeon, so that was Paramount when that came out. So
Paramount's better at that stuff than Disney is. Apparently.
Yeah, it might just be a difference in philosophy between Paramount and Disney, because the iCarly revival had like adult jokes, like they joke about like Carly's sex life and like how she didn't have like a boyfriend and stuff, which I thought was funny. It was hilarious, and it looks like that's what they wanted to do with Liz McGuire, but the mouse said, "Hell no, not on this streaming platform." But that's unfortunate. But so I said start off with the one you didn't like that much, but the one you did like was Peacemaker? Question mark. Did you think the first episode of Peacemaker was decent?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I do. I mean, I really think the character's like funny and interesting. And John Cena, he's not that good of an actor, but like he's got some really good timing with his like lines sometimes, and his like be fun. Yeah. That I think that like helps him because he's not good. It adds to the quality of it. You know what I mean? Like just how he talks and his mannerisms and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I like how it's different. Like it's still got that superhero thing going on, but it's different. And like you said, James Gunn wrote and directed this show, which is again bonkers. Like you wouldn't like when you do a movie like Suicide Squad or Guardians of the Galaxy, like you don't do TV. Like what? Like that was like an old 90s thing. Like TV is like beneath you, right? But this is at that point where everything's getting so well produced and well made, technology is so reasonable in terms of production, you can do that same kind of quality. Like it's the same quality as the Suicide Squad, if you ask me.
Yeah, straight up, it's really good, and it's even like his own this show is his brainchild. Like I believe they said that he pitched this to Warner Brothers during the pandemic, like after they had made Suicide Squad and that movie was in the can. Like he just got bored and started writing like this show for Peacemaker, and of course James Gunn being as popular as he is, Warner Brothers was like, hell yes, please. And they made it. I love the show. It's great. I think you'll really like you've seen the first episode. They've got 6 out, and the last episode comes out next week. It's the season finale. It only gets better. I think you'll really like the show once you get through it. And I'm with you. John Cena is not a great actor, but I think he's really good in this role. And it speaks to like his comedic timing and stuff, and also James Gunn's direction of him. But it's great. And even like the supporting cast is all very good.
Yeah, I think it's really fun to see John Cena having fun. He has fun in all the roles he's in, honestly. Like, he just looks like a guy having fun, and I could really appreciate that. Like, even if you're not good at something, if it looks like you're genuinely enjoying it, not faking it, like, I think it looks great. And I've seen other clips, like in this trailer, like Vigilante. I haven't gotten too much I haven't only seen the pilot episodes, so I haven't gotten to see him too much. But I feel there's a lot of Quentin Tarantino in this as well. Like there's a lot of these moments where you sit down and kind of tension happens, or there's some dialogue, and then like it kind of escalates, and I really like that formula. It's Quentin Tarantino did a lot of his early films where you weren't sure what was going to happen. When Vigilante's sitting down in the prison scene and he goes, let's all talk about what we're thankful for African Americans who brought to this country. I thought that was fucking great. I'm like, holy shit, this dude's about to get stabbed in the fucking face.
No, that scene's hilarious. Yeah, because it's like he already like knows he wants to kill all these people.
Yeah.
So he's like, what's the fastest I can piss all of these people off like in one fell swoop? And he's like, let's all name our favorite things that Black people have contributed to this country. He's like, I'll start. And he just starts listing stuff.
Yeah, it's just, and he's great. And that actor, who he looks like the actor who's in Watchmen. It's not the same actor though, right? It looks like it's the same actor in Watchmen.
I'll find here. I know Blake's with us in the chat. He says Vigilante is so good. Oh, we got a first time chatter. Zendra Lakari, other people. Here's a commentary on the design of this
Oh,
film. Me, lol, small goober. I feel. I mean, we all find different things in movies, right? Like some people care about like the cinematography and all that, and some people are all about the action. But to speak to Peacemaker, I think the show does great at like all of it. Like I think it's well shot. I think the action's really good. Like I don't know how much there is in the pilot. I forget, but like all the action's well choreographed. That intro sequence is hilarious. It's well written. I'm very very excited about it.
it's very down to
Yeah,
earth, very down to earth too. Like he's generally upset that he was in prison for 4 years and he didn't shut off his phone. Like that kind of stuff is like that's something you normally wouldn't see in a big Hollywood. Like who gives a shit about your phone bill, right? Like in big Hollywood movies. But in this
mhm.
one, it's like he actually gives a shit because he's like, I was in prison for 4 years. I was paying phone service for 4 years. He was like really offended. It's little things like that. I think that James Gunn's good at. And like we were talking about this
He
in the show
is.
earlier, he wrote the Scooby Doo movie, right? And I've seen interviews where
He
he was
did.
like, "That was my break." He knew that was his big break, and he was so
Yeah.
nervous when he was writing it because it was his first big
Mhm.
movie. And I just think, and like I said, that movie's way better than it should be, than it has any right to
Yeah.
be.
Mhm. He tells that story about like when they called him and he found out like over the weekend that it made like a shit ton of money and he was like, okay, like this is it, like I'm about to make it as a writer. Oh yeah, so Blake says Peacemaker's dad is the T-1000.
Yeah,
That's yeah, I didn't know
yeah.
that. I didn't know that until I was on like Twitter and saw that he had posted and I was like, oh shit, that is him. Which is crazy because I think he was talking about how he had to learn in Terminator to shoot a gun without blinking for that
Oh
like
yeah, a
hallway
lot of
scene.
actors have that
Yeah.
problem. Yeah,
Yeah, I was like, damn, I didn't like as soon as I read, I was like, oh, that is him, but I didn't notice it watching originally on my own.
he plays a white
Um,
supremacist, I believe, in the,
yeah,
the film. A really bad white supremacist.
I mean, yeah, his character in Peacemaker his name is the White Dragon, like that's his alias, which is it's it's hilarious. It's great.
It was funny because he like represents like a lot of I think a lot of people we all know. You know, because like, well,
mm,
here's one with a sonic boom. Maybe you could take some of those commies out with you. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, what year is it to him? Like it's 1955. What is this?
it's good. I think again another like James Gunn's like one of his greatest strengths as a writer is like he's great at weaving his stories into like modern commentary or like pop culture and stuff without it being like cringy or whatever. Like we were just talking about like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and how like everybody's got their phones out and they're like it's something like it's a corniness to it, but his like he can tie his movies into today's culture in a way that feels like real and not like you just said with How I Met Your Mother or How I Met Your Father, where it feels like people trying too hard or
Yeah.
people that are out of touch. He's very good at that.
Well, James Gunn
Um,
is also really he's a really super interesting career and he's an interesting person. Like he's like I think as raw of an artist you can get at this level because there's Guardians of the Galaxy James Gunn, and then there's which is
mhm.
like which what everyone basically knows him for now. But like before Guardians of the Galaxy, like there was a completely different types of James Gunn that people don't realize how dark he was. He has like trauma roots. Like he is like a writer and an actor and like he does like as much stuff as he can. Like he's a true filmmaker. Like he really does do all this
Mhm.
interesting stuff. And people
Yeah, I
like and it
mean,
makes me sad when people are like, "Oh, Guardians." I'm like, "Yeah, but like he did a ton of other shit too that was really weird and off the Did you ever see he did a movie called Super, which is a terrible name. But he did it at the
yeah,
same
with the Rain Wilson.
yeah, Rainn
Mhm.
Wilson. So he did, and that movie is like so indicative of like it's like a better, darker, fucked up Kick-Ass. And
Mhm.
apparently, because I was reading about this when my friend was showing it to me, apparently like he was friends with the person who wrote Kick-Ass when he was making that film. And so
Okay.
I have a feeling it was kind of like a bet. He was like, "You can't do a Kick-Ass movie without Kick-Ass." He's like, "Yes, I can. I can do it." And he's like, "No, you can't." Like I just feel like that was that movie because it was just like making a point. And there's so many weird, extreme choices, and they're all interesting choices.
Mhm.
And like this stuff,
Yeah.
he's I don't know, he's like a really interesting guy. Like just in terms of what he works and what he's done and his career path, you know?
Yeah, I was like when I wanted to bring it was Slither, and then he actually just mentioned in the chat Slither. Like I remember I saw Slither as a kid, and that movie was like so creepy.
It is.
Like I remember as a kid that movie made me so uncomfortable. Like just those little creatures and stuff. And I think there's even like I think there's a Slither cameo in like Guardians of the Galaxy. I think that when they're like going through the collectors thing, I think he has like a pod where you see a bunch of the little Slither creatures going through. I think somebody had tweeted James Gunn about like an Easter egg and was like, "Oh, so this is canon in the MCU now, I guess." About something else, and he's like, "Well, that's the case, and I guess Slither is canon in the MCU as well." But yeah, no, he's made some crazy stuff. And again, I mean, my favorites of his will probably be, if you're not talking superhero stuff, Slither and Scooby Doo, great movies. But Blake mentioned the specials. I haven't seen the specials. TJ dropped in talking about Truma, James Gunn. Yeah, dude has quite the catalog of stuff. But he's a brilliant writer and a great director. So I'm sure DC is thanking their lucky stars that he kind of fell into their lap after all the weird Disney stuff, and then he went back. But yeah, and I think now we talked about it last week. He says he's got apparently like a pitch for another show on HBO Max based on Suicide Squad. So that is a very busy dude.
Yeah, he's
very busy dude.
He's done he's definitely one of the, like, you look through his repertoire and like the Scooby Doo thing is really, I think, the where everything starts to fly up for him, because that's what gets him into meeting rooms and talks with producers and on set to meet people, and like that's what it is. Like, it's all about using it as a stepping stool, and he did that really well while still being entertaining. The twist of Scrappy Doo is so fucking amazing. I'm just like, how, like, what?
Puppy power.
Nothing. I just love the flashback where he's just being annoyed and they just kick him out of the they kick him out of the van. I just was like, what? Like, it was so out there. And then of course, like, Dawn of the Dead also put him on, like, that was received pretty positive as well. But like, he's written a lot of stuff, he's directed a lot of stuff, he's starred in a lot of stuff. I just think he's a super interesting guy, and it really sucks. I mean, like, obviously he's gonna do Guardians 3 because Disney realizes he's talented, but like, yeah, that was such a weird thing. I think they're
shooting that now. Yeah. But
Scooby-Doo movie made in 2005 hasn't seen it yet.
Yeah.
The statute of limitations are over on Scooby-Doo. I'm sorry.
Scooby is glad. I'm pretty sure he's kidding, but Scooby-Doo that was like a staple of my childhood, like early 2000s. I love that movie so much. I need to rewatch it. I haven't seen it in many years, but yeah, I'm glad you checked out Peacemaker though. We'll have to, once you get caught up, like once the season's done and we've both seen it all, we'll have to do like a full discussion of it.
And then the one thing I want to say before we move on, one more thing I'll say about James Gunn is that looking at his old work, like his really old work, like his college stuff, it just is like looks like a guy having fun, and like I can really, like, because I used to make films like that, like just for fun, and like I could relate to him on that level, where like Spielberg was like literally his first movie was a fucking Duel where he destroyed a truck. Like, who gets to do that? Rich people get to do that. You know what I mean? Like, that was his first film. You ever seen Duel?
I don't think I have, no.
So it's a movie about, it's one of Spielberg's first movies ever, and it's basically about a stretch of highway of a guy getting terrorized by a giant menacing truck. And you think, oh, that sounds like a really simple premise, but looking at that movie, dude, they have two cars, they completely destroy one. Like, there's no way, like, you'd be able to make that in college unless you were super wealthy. So, and I know Spielberg came from a super wealthy family, so that just sucks, because it's like look at fucking James Gunn shit. Like, it looks awful. Like, it looks awful, and it is awful because he didn't have a budget. He did it on $10. You know what I mean? I don't know. Sorry. Okay, moving on.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, as for me, I'm trying to think of like stuff I watched this week. I didn't really watch much new stuff this week. I did a lot of rewatching of movies.
You can't say that on the stream. Someone's gonna come in and murder you because you haven't seen Batman or Ghostbusters, but you keep watching Knives Out.
Hey,
You did watch Knives Out, didn't you?
No, I haven't rewatched Knives Out in at least a year at this point. I think it was like beginning of last year I watched. I mean, at this point, that movie came out in 2019. I haven't watched it probably since the end of 2020.
It's only been 48 hours. Every 2 days.
I'm being light with it. I don't know. My friends, we watched a bunch of random movies. We watched like When a Stranger Calls, the newer one from like the 2000s. That movie sucked. Rewatched Get Out the other night. That movie is still excellent. Last Black Man in San Francisco was also very good. Slight was okay. A little weird, but that movie was also pretty decent. Just a quick rapid fire movie review. Didn't watch anything this week that I felt too passionate about that I wanted to do like a whole breakdown and watch a discussion for. But I might have some stuff next week just to tease stuff up. Zenja Lokari, thank you for subscribing. Much appreciated. Glad that you are here. Enjoy those emotes.
That's my friend. He's supporting me. Like when your friends come in the chat.
Thank you. Yeah, no, my friends gonna spam the emotes and stuff. But still, very much appreciated. But I'll probably have more stuff to chat about next week. I'm not gonna say what, but there's some interesting stuff coming out. Greg,
Mm.
how would you feel about some generational gappage?
Let's do this.
How,
Why don't you tell the audience out there what the generational gap challenge is all about?
I can do that, folks. If you haven't noticed, Greg and I, we grew up in different generations as far as pop culture goes. And with that, we have different movies, TV shows, actors, music that we're familiar with and that resonate with us. So, every episode at the end of Pop Culture, we like to test our knowledge with the Generational Gap Challenge. Greg will ask me questions about stuff from his era. I'll ask him questions about stuff from my era. And we'll see how much we really know. And it's always a fun learning experience, no matter how well or horrible the other person performs. Um, Greg, who should ask questions first?
God, that's a tough one. Why don't you go first? I'll see how many Nickelodeon Disney questions are in here, and I can form my plans accordingly.
I can do that. Are you ready for your first question, Greg?
Yes.
All right. Perry the Platypus.
God fucking damn it!
Is a
No!
character from,
No!
is a character from what Disney animated series?
God, please, no!
You're gonna laugh. The reason wait, hold on, play the music. So I know this only because, God bless him, John Giediosi flew to Universal. Was it Universal? No, it was Disney World in Florida, and did interviews with the creators of this show. And I'd never heard of it until that point. It's Phineas and Ferb, right? He's like a sideshow in Phineas and Ferb. It's like a side story, right? Like they have a platypus that does like detective stuff, right? That's the whole.
Yeah, the answer is Phineas and Ferb. Yes.
Yes!
It was always
got it.
Like they always say, like TV shows have like an A story and a B story, where it's like the main plot and like the subplot. Perry the Platypus was usually like the B plot of the subplot. It was like Phineas and Ferb would be off making some crazy contraption like a roller coaster to space or like whatever they were working on, and Perry, their pet platypus, would slip away. He had like this like super like the chute built into the tree where he'd drop into it, he'd put on a fedora, stand up on his hind legs, and he was like a spy, and he worked for this black ops government group, and he would go and fight crime, and he had Doofenshmirtz was like his enemy, and Doofenshmirtz was voiced. Yeah, Doofenshmirtz was voiced by like the creator of the show, and then even I think Perry the Platypus, like all of his platypus sound effects, because he didn't speak, he just made sounds. It was all like D. Bradley Baker, I believe. Yeah, it was a great character, and he had like this cool theme song where it'd be like Agent P, and that was like the running joke would be at the end of the episode. Phineas would be like, "Oh wait a second, where's Perry?" And he would just like show up from wherever he was, like he'd like fall off the roof or like come out of the ground or jump over the fence or something. That was like the recurring bit there. But I saw Blake said no. I figured Blake would know that one because I mean, Phineas and Ferb is like a new era cartoon, but it was pretty popular. It's similar to like Adventure Time, right? Where it was like definitely a more recent generation, but it kind of transcended that in a sense, just because it was so damn popular. And even like Phineas and Ferb, like that show went off the air several years ago at this point, but like they just did a movie like over the pandemic. They had like a new movie come to Disney Plus. It's still a property that they go back to every now and then.
It's quite popular. I remember it was a little past my time, but definitely it was still popular. That's the whole point of the show. That's the whole point of our questions.
Yeah, no, for sure. Are you ready for your next question, Greg? You're 1 for 1.
Yes.
All right. In Ready Player One, Greg, what is the name of the virtual world that everybody lives in this game? What's it called?
Oh, I saw that movie and I hated it, so I remember that movie vividly. The Oasis.
They say it a million times. The Oasis. Okay. Can I just say that can I just say that's a very perfect Greg quote? I saw that movie, I hated it, so I remember it very vividly.
Yeah. Oh, because it's like, will it ever end? Like, I'm like, good lord, like, it was so much pointing, remembering stuff. It was so weird.
No, I got you. So not to derail, but ML Andre on the chat, one of the earnings, I believe at 5:00 p.m. Eastern is when we're going to start our earnings stream. So if you're looking for that, we're about like 40 minutes.
About 40 minutes, 2 o'clock on the dot,
Yeah.
usually. And they usually start on time, right, Donovan, the earnings call stuff? or are they
I
usually
believe
late?
so. I believe so. At the latest, it'd be like 5:30, but I know we always go live like right at 5 just to be sure. But either way, that's probably when you want to get back around here for that. Yeah, no, right. It's they say the name The Oasis like a million times in that movie or book. I mean, you could refer to either. They're both very popular things, but I thought that'd be a good one. I actually didn't mind that movie all that much. I kind of dug it. Greg, but you're two for two either way. Are you ready for your third and final question? You
Let's
might
do
be
it.
gearing up for uh a very
3 for
wait a
3.
minute. Now I'm like having now I'm like doubting myself. Okay, wait. I'm gonna ask you this question, but I'll see. Okay.
Oh God, it's gonna change
All
it.
right. Greg Heffley is a character in what children's book series?
Wait, what? Tell me his name again.
The character's name is Greg, and his last name is Heffley.
Oh, I know this again, not because I know what it is, but because you've been tweeting about it on your Twitter sometimes, and I saw a trailer for it, and I remember that the character from this show and I had the same name, and so it's Diary of a Wimpy Kid, right?
That's correct. It's
Yeah,
Diary of a
I
Wimpy
got
Kid.
it. Wait,
Yeah. Diary of
I
a
got
Wimpy
3
Kid.
for 3.
You did it. You actually did it. Which, you should honestly be sad because that just means next week it's 3 Hannah Montana questions.
God damn it! Or Miley Cyrus questions, or
Yeah.
or Lizzie McGuire questions.
Yep.
What
Oh, that's a
color
good one.
was Lizzie McGuire's
McGuire.
bow in episode 5? I don't know. I don't know.
Ooh. Lizzie McGuire's a good one. We might have to get into that vote. Okay.
Name you could just
but
be
yeah.
like, name one other character other than Lizzie McGuire. Any character. It could even be a writer. I'd be like, I don't know.
What was Lizzie McGuire's last name?
I don't know. Is it in the title? Is it in the title?
But yeah, Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I love those books. They were like, and Denny might back me up on this one if he's still listening. But like, Diary of a Wimpy Kid was like huge. Like when I was in like elementary to middle school, like it was at every book fair. That author wrote one like every year, like every fall, every school season. There was a new Diary of a Wimpy Kid book out. I think he's had to have written like 13 of them at this point. They're all very short, like 200 pages, like a good read for like young adults. A lot of pictures, like hand drawn images in them. Very good. And it was supposed to be a diary, so it was written from like this kid's perspective, and like even the way it was like printed, it looked like it was on like notebook paper. Very good, very funny. Like I think even like when I worked at Target a couple years ago, like as a young adult in college, like I would see them on the shelves every fall, and I would even I'd like skim through them, and they were still like funny. Like I'm like these are like well written books. They weren't like stupid like brain dead like garbage for like children to read. Like they're actually pretty funny. There were like some clever humor in them. They're like jokes that kind of fly over your head as a kid that as an adult I picked up on, and I think to this day I think he still writes them. I know he jokes about it. Somebody like told him it was like Jeff, like you can stop writing these books now, and he's like I can't stop. It's all I know. It's the only thing.
Oh,
I know
that's
how to
right.
do.
Yeah, and you show me like it's just so many. Like his shelf is just so many books. I'm like, oh my God, good for him though.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, and they did like the movies like in the late 2000s, like around 2010, they did like some live action movies, and now they're doing movies again, but they're doing animated, more like true to the art style of the books, hand drawn style animation on Disney Plus. So yeah, like you said, hands off to that dude. I mean, I think those books are damn good. I haven't read them in a decade at this point, probably, but yeah, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and his name's Greg. So I thought that was a fun one to tie in here. Well, Greg, you went 3 for 3, so I literally can't do any better than that. So I'm ready to fail epically.
Before I get into this, maybe we should.
Okay.
No, damn it! I was hoping that Percy Jackson movies would be on Amazon Prime. They're not.
Oh man,
Boo! Because me and you could bond over that shit, man. Like, I almost want to start
that'd be
reading the
really
books
fun.
again, even though it's a little rough. Like being older, especially you being like educated in like the English language and writing, like they're kind of tough to read through because they're meant for so younger readers. So it's really sometimes you really got to get through it, but you can get through it. It's still good, but it's tough. Some of the stuff.
Honestly, I wouldn't even say, because I know you've read them before, I wouldn't even say to reread Percy Jackson. I would say read Heroes of Olympus. Like pick up The Lost Hero. Because that one, it's still like for young adults, but that's more like for like high school, like early college age. I think those are like totally readable for an adult. I think and Lost Hero is very good. That's the one.
I'm putting it on my list. It's called Heroes of Olympus Lost Hero, or
Lost Hero, yeah.
Okay.
So that one, it's like same universe, it's other kids. Percy Jackson's not really a big main part now, but then he like the sequel brings him in, and it all ties in. But I think Lost Hero was very good.
Okay.
Either way, but yeah, feel free to take the floor.
I will check. So, all right, first question. Put the jumping music on. Hopefully, it won't get flagged. So Donovan, you've heard of the show Animaniacs, right?
I have.
Okay.
We're Animani.
Right. Totally insane. So the three main characters in Animaniacs were Yakko, Wacko, and Dot. But they had a plethora of other characters. Can you name 3 other characters? Any 3 in the show.
What about Pinky and the Brain? Weren't they Animaniacs characters?
Yes.
That spun off?
Yes.
Okay.
That's 2.
Pinky and the Brain.
You only got 1 more.
Yeah, that's rough, isn't it? Because that's all I got. No, so I'm thinking like in terms of like other context. I know there were a lot of projects that like spun off of Animaniacs or tied in or whatnot.
Mm-hmm. It was like a variety show almost. Like they had separate little mini shows within the show that had nothing to do with Animaniacs. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So was there like, were any of the duck characters on? Were any of the duck families? Or no, I'm thinking of like
ducks.
No, I'm not. I'm thinking like a whole different. I'm thinking like Disney. This is WB. I know Steven Spielberg was in the reboot. We watched the reboot. We reviewed it on this show. So I really should know more. Does Dr. Hammond count? They showed him from Jurassic Park in that one episode.
No.
They showed Sam Neill too. Vader Zim was not.
No, that's Nickelodeon. That's Nickelodeon.
That is Nickelodeon.
It helps. It's Warner Brothers Animation.
Okay, so this would be like Cartoon Network like stuff.
Yeah.
Wasn't. Were Cow and Chicken on Animaniacs?
That's cartoon. That's Cartoon Network. That's what a cartoon.
Oh, okay. Damn. Oh, I almost thought I had it with Cow and Chicken.
I love that theme song though. The theme song is like Mama had a chicken, Mama had a cow, Dad was proud, he didn't care how. It's such a great opening. Cow. They just called Cow and Chicken. It's just I don't know. Love that kind of creativity.
We have to rank all the best like cartoon openings one day. Oof. Man, that's rough. Okay. I might have to throw in the towel just for the sake of moving the show along.
Oh, but you're so close. You got one more. You just got one more.
Because I know they had like, and maybe the bad parts I'm thinking only within like the new one, because that's the one that's in my brain. Remember they had like the executive dude.
Can you name one of the pigeons? There were 3 pigeons, and each had different names. Can you name one of the?
Definitely not. It definitely can't name it. So the 3 Animaniacs themselves, what were their names again?
Yakko, Wacko, and Dot.
Yakko, Wacko, and Dot. Was Dot the girl, the sister? Okay, thought so. Let me think of some of their songs. You know, I know they had like the state song, or was it states that they did the song for, or countries?
They did state capitals, and then they did every word in the English language. And then they did state capitals. Those are the ones
yes. Yeah, I did. Nothing's coming to mind. I'm gonna have to throw in the towel for the last one. I don't know. And with full disclosure, Animaniacs was never. I mean, it was a bit before my time. Like I've seen some of it. I probably know the reboot more than I know the original. No, I can't think of anybody else.
So they had the good feathers, and that was Squint, Bobby, and Pesto, and then they had the God Pigeon. Then they had Slappy and Slippy Squirrel, where like Slappy was like always like negative and like glass half empty and pessimistic and kind of dark. And like her nephew Skippy was all happy and like a Disney cartoon character. Then they had Dr. Frankenstein, whatever his name is, Dr. Pindenstein. I can't even remember it. Or is it Dr. Otto Van Scratch and Sniff? That was Dr. Otto Van Scratch. Some of these names. And then they had Ralph the security guard, and those are some of the bigger ones.
Ralph sounds kind of familiar. Okay, I mean, it makes me less frustrated because I don't think I would have gotten any of those. I was worried that you were gonna say when I was gonna be like, "Damn it, I knew that one," but I don't think I would have gotten to any of those even if I took more time. Okay, yeah, I mean, Pinky and the Brain. I don't know why. I just know that that's a spinoff, or those characters came from that show. But the rest, it was all a blur. See, I know they renew the new one for a season 2. Did that ever come out? Did we just miss that, or is that?
Oh
Not
no,
out
it
yet?
came
I'm
out.
pretty
It's
sure...
just I think it's there, and I think it got received well.
Okay, I know season 2 was like a thing they were doing. I just wasn't sure if it was out or not yet. Okay, gotcha. Well, I'm doing great so far.
You're
Wait, was that?
that was your first question.
Oh, that was the first question. Okay,
That was
I
the
thought
first
I had
question.
missed 2. Okay, that's fine.
Your second
What we got
question
next?
is an interesting one. So it's an identify this object, but it's
My
interesting.
favorite.
So you know what this object is. You're gonna know what it is immediately. But do you? My question is how did you buy this object? What magazine did you have to be subscribed to in order to get this object? I'll put it on the screen now.
Wait for you to catch up. All right, we're transitioning, and all right, that looks like a football phone.
That is correct.
Let's see. I'm not even sure what that product is called. The football phone there, unless it's
No, it's called a football phone. It's a football
Okay.
phone. But you got it specifically
Would you-
with a magazine subscription. What magazine subscription did you get it with?
Would it be Sports Illustrated? Would it be Mad? Was it Mad?
Bad. I don't even know what that is. That's amazed. I'm
you know
amazed.
Mad.
I'm amazed. You know Mad because of Mad TV, not because of the Mad magazine, right?
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
It's
But
like
I know that it was a magazine, and as soon as you said magazine, I was like, I'm gonna know this one.
Oh yeah, but that magazine had been around 60s or 70s, and so it was really old.
Yeah. Not Sports Illustrated. It's not Nat Geo Kids. I remember that one. Sports for Kids magazine. Sports Kids.
You have the
magazine.
answer. You said it twice already, and you just don't believe in yourself. You got to believe in
Oh.
yourself, Donovan.
Is it Sports Illustrated? I wasn't. Wait.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
Sports Illustrated.
Great. Look at that.
Why would you think it's not Sports Illustrated?
I don't know. I thought it would be like a kids magazine because were kids reading Sports Illustrated, or was that like?
I mean, if you were into sports, I'm sure kids read it. I mean, you're looking at a guy who just understood how football worked like a couple years ago. So like,
you know what? Wait, but Sports Illustrated was when they had like all the swimsuit models in it as well, right? Or was that like one of their other magazines?
yes, it was a lot of baiting material for underage kids because that was the only thing they had access to back in the days.
Okay.
We didn't have the internet, so we
I
had
thought
to
they were
make
two
do.
separate. I see. That's fine.
So
Okay,
like
cool.
the running joke in the 90s was like, oh, it's a Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. Like that's the running joke. They weren't all swimsuit edition magazines.
Okay.
It was only some of
I
them.
see. Okay, I got you. Because I was like,
I think Denny's
was
right
like,
though. There
well,
was a
all
Sports Illustrated Kids. I don't know what would be in there. Nothing that I would like.
all right,
So-
nothing that I would like. Okay, makes sense. Hey, good old football phone.
You said it not once, but twice. You said it twice. All right, and my third and final question. So you're doing good so far. You're 2 for 2,
Yep.
or 2 for 1. One for one.
Yeah.
1 for 1,
One
2
for
for
two.
2.
All right.
Trying to find my other question here. I have it buried. Oh, here we go.
Okay.
Okay, so Disney's iconic characters, Chip and Dale, had their own show that ran from 1988 to 1990 where they were a team that helped people. What was the name of their team?
Oh.
Their team consisted of Monterey Jack. I've showed you the intro and you were like, I don't know what this
Yeah,
is.
it was like was it Rescue Rangers?
Yes.
Rescue Rangers?
That is
Yeah,
right.
okay.
I should have done the teacher thing. Are you asking me or telling me?
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. I remember Rescue Rangers. I've seen some episodes of that show. Back when Disney would have their like throwback block when they put in some of their older
Yeah,
cartoons.
you were like a couple months old during the Disney afternoon phase. Or no, you weren't even born yet. You were negative. The Disney afternoon was fucking the most amazing thing in the world. So much good original
Yeah, I know
programming.
people quite fond of it, and a lot of stuff came on like in syndication. I would catch a lot of it after the fact. But okay, yeah, Rescue Rangers was good. I like Chip and Dale. I wasn't like a diehard fan of that, but it was a good one. Hey, I'm happy with my performance there. I went 2 for 3. You know, in my heart, I'm thinking 2.5 because I got some of the characters from Animaniacs. But great. That's I think that's a good way to kind of close our show out here. We've got a pretty big programming block coming up because after Pop Goes the Culture ends in just half an hour, less than half an hour, we've got Actors Blizzard earnings call, live stream coming up here. You'll be able to listen to that. And then once that's over, you can actually watch or listen to the VOD on our YouTube channel. That'll be uploaded. And then even after that, we've got big team building. We're going to be playing some more Halo with the staff. Sam Chandler will be spearheading that one. I'll probably be popping in, as well as many other members of the Shacknews staff. And then today's Thursday, so I believe even Jan is streaming tonight as well. I don't know what he's got.
There's no earnings call today. We must have missed it in our group Slack when we were streaming. So there's no earnings call.
No earnings call today.
They announced it. Ooh.
Oh,
not good.
Wow.
Not good.
That's interesting. Okay, then. Well, wow, that's interesting. They're not doing earnings call, but I guess we won't talk about that. That'll be a conversation for the dump tomorrow. I'll be curious to hear what you guys have to say about that one. Or,
trying to figure out the best way to break bad news is to shareholders.
well,
we'll broadcast down 40 million subscribers, but we're gonna bounce back.
You can come back in a few hours then, or 2.5 hours for our Halo live stream. Then we've got stuff coming on after that. Either way, you should follow, subscribe. You got a smartphone because everybody in the world has a smartphone at this point. Download Shack Pets. It's a free app. It's like Tinder, but less depressing. It's all pets. It's a very fun app. You get to swipe when cute animal pictures. What more do you really need? And again, we're just happy to have you guys here listening. That was episode 52 of Shacknews Presents Pop Goes the Culture. I am Donovan Erskine. That is Greg Burke. We are going to be peacing out here, and we will chat with you guys next week. Adios.